productive and how can we retool to be more productive. He's one of the first Jamaicans to be licensed as a manufacturing engineer. And we are looking forward to seeing what Junior has. Presentation and the requirement for us to increase Jamaica productivity. Junior will be looking at Industry 4.0, and quite honestly, on the back of what Richard has said, Junior, we're looking forward, Engineer Bennett, to hear what you have to say in terms of all of the issues around this. I see your from Mr. Cadogan, very informative. I agree with you, Mr. Cadogan. Okay, Junior Bennett, I'm going to ask the controls to bring up Junior Bennett's presentation so that we are able to see Junior and to get Mr. Junior Bennett up so that we can all continue on the excellent. Hi, good morning, Junior. Over to you, Junior.
Good morning.
Good morning, over to you.
Are you hearing me?
Loud and clear.
It's really an honor and privilege to be here to share in JIE first virtual conference. And I'm sure it is the beginning of virtual conferences. My topic today is the fourth industrial revolution, a model to accelerate economic growth. Now, for the presentation, I'll be looking at a brief history and overview of industrial revolutions, the goals of the fourth industrial revolution, revolution research findings from the 2016 survey, the largest survey that have ever taken place relating to industrial revolution. We'll be looking at a blueprint for digital success. And I will be sharing the factors that could influence the implementation of Industry 4.0. And also I've created a model that I will be sharing that look at the probability of success in terms of Jamaica implementing the Industry 4.0. What are the opportunities, barriers, and cyber risks and possible solutions? Now, the context of my presentation is going to be very important as it relates to the Vision 2030 goals. And in particular, Goal 3, Jamaica's economic is prosperous, and that is a goal for all Jamaicans at home and abroad in the diaspora. And goal national outcome 8 and 11 is of importance to the implementation of Industry 4.0, which is another name for the fourth industrial revolution. So goals, national outcomes 8 and 11 is of importance to this presentation. Now, zooming into the national outcome 11, a technological enabled society, building the capacity for science, technology, and innovation in Jamaica will enable us to raise productivity, wealth, and standards of living by developing new competitive economic activities to serve not just local but regional and global markets. And we also need to develop R&D capacity to support technology-based economic growth. And this is a part of Vision 2030, page 185. Now let's look at Jamaica growth in terms of GDP from 1967 to 2019, the data extracted from the World Bank. What we can see basically is that we had the highest growth somewhere in I believe 1972, 18% I believe. And if you notice, we have been on a trajectory where we went way down, then we had improved in the 70s, 80s, coming into the 90s. And then after we dropped significantly and we actually remained in terms of the trend remain constant, for the exception of 2010 when there was a major fall. So definitely, when we look at where our GDP growth, it is actually projected in the wrong direction. We ought to be having a positive trajectory. Now, I've compared three other Caribbean islands, the Dominican Republic, Barbados, and Trinidad, to look at their growth within the last 10 years. And what you see basically is that this is Jamaica. The blue is actually showing the blue pattern, and we have Dominica is actually pink, and we recognize that Dominica is actually their growth rate is way above Jamaica, and is almost 5.5% average GDP. So what we realize basically, so we ask the question, why is it that Dominican Republic is growing at a GDP of above 4 for the past, from 2011, above 4 consistently, and Jamaica is having a challenge to actually grow to 2%. And so part of this presentation will present how Industry 4.0 can actually help to accelerate the growth. Now, looking back at last year, or the latest data basically that is available, we see for last year, 2019, only 2 of the 4 countries I'm comparing have actually shown a positive growth. And yes, we're happy that Jamaica has shown 0.7% growth in 2019, and Dominica has shown 5.1. Now, our Vision 2020 goal is that Jamaica is to grow at 5% per annum for Vision 2020 and beyond. And we are at actually 0.7, which means that we need to do a lot of work. Trinidad basically have showed there hasn't been much, and Barbados slightly decreased. Now, an overview of the first industrial revolution. Of course, it was characterized by steam power and mechanization, and this contributed to an increase in human productivity, and therefore there was the other advantage in terms of, and many other advantages that lead to transportation, and persons were able to get to their location at a shorter time. So definitely we see that industrial revolution does help to increase productivity and can contribute in terms of transportation efficiency. The second industrial revolution, of course, there was begun in the 1900s, and the electricity discovery and the assembly line production. And Henry Ford played a very important role in terms of mass production. And the idea he got from the slaughterhouse in Chicago, where different persons were actually assisting in terms of bushing of pigs at the time. And he used the same concept to actually put together assembly line, which different persons were doing different tasks. One of the benefits, faster and lower cost. Now then we move to the third industrial revolution, when there was an increase in terms of partial automation and programmable logic controllers, and the use of IT was very important in terms of further building on the second industrial revolution, and lead, of course, to greater production and efficiency as well. Now, Jamaica is actually at between the second and third industrial revolution, and we need to transition to where we should be and where the world is, the fourth industrial revolution, which is what my focus is today. So what are some of the benefits of this system? Definitely there is networking of all systems that are used in manufacturing, and there is cyber physical production systems, smart factories, data analytics, IoT, Internet of Things. All of these tools are part of the whole suite for the fourth industrial revolution, or the Industry 4.0. In terms of summary, Industry 1.0, we had the mechanization and the introduction of the steam and powered water. Then Industry 4.0, mass production assembly lines using electrical power. Then Industry 3.0, there's automated production using computers, IT systems, and robotics. Then we are where we are today, the smart factory, and this is where the world is, and Jamaica actually needs to be there sooner than later. I'm going to just share with you overview of Industry 4.0.
Undergone significant revolutions. Now the industry is entering the exciting Industry 4.0. It is a transition powered by data and automation technology that could transform every step of the manufacturing process, from the supply chain and enterprise to the shop floor and end users. The goal is to drive productivity and innovation and empower businesses in an integrated, data-driven manufacturing environment.
Asia is now occupying or has in fact taken more than half of the global share of the economy. And with that, global companies have started to base not just manufacturing but even local product development and designs within Asia in key locations including Singapore. We do see that the need to move up the value chain for manufacturing, the adoption of Industry 4.0 concepts is going to be a lot more pervasive. For the Singapore government, the manufacturing domain is one in which we are very heavily committed in, having committed close to about 3.3 billion Singapore dollars, which is roughly about 2 billion euros, through agent.
Is an immersive learning environment.
All right, and so we see basically that definitely Singapore, which is be the first best economy, have invested a lot in terms of industry, the lot of investment in for the implementation of Industry 4.0. And so these are some of the technologies that have been transforming the IO Industry 4.0. So we have automation, cybersecurity, additive manufacturing, simulation, cloud technology, artificial realities, big data mine. All of these are very important, and we may not be able to integrate all of them, but we need to prioritize and decide which of them we can actually integrate. In terms of the value drivers for the Industry 4.0, asset utilization, there would be an increase in terms of overall equipment efficiency, OEE. In terms of inventory, we may not need to have a large inventory because we could have the design in the cloud and we can just decide to use 3D technology depending on what the product is, that we could actually print it as need. So instead of designing manufacturing to stock, we could have manufacturing to order, so it's far more responsive as well. I just want to emphasize the time to market definitely would actually a very important benefit in concurrent engineering and rapid experimentation will lead. And concurrent engineering basically meaning that we will be working in teams, persons with procurement, financial, marketing, management, technical persons, all the different persons will be contributing to the time to market, and so the customer definitely will be able to get their product and will be able to be better competitors. What are some of the goals? Enhance productivity through automation, decrease waste, increase sustainability, reducing downtime, and this is an important aspect that we can capitalize in generating additional digital revenues, which will lead to job increase in terms of job market, and persons with ICT skills will definitely have an advantage. Optimizing customer interaction and access, which definitely mean that your business will be sustainable. The 2016 Global Industry 4.0 survey actually showed that it was conducted in over 26 countries, and over 2,000 data came from executives. And of those data, 40% were from the industrial manufacturing and engineering and construction. And basically, this is very important survey. And what you will see, these are some of the participating countries. And so, of course, some of these participating countries that took place in the Industry 4.0 survey actually have a passion for Industry 4.0 as well. And their economy has been transformed. So these are some of the important findings. 33% rate their company of the respondent as advanced today. That was 2016. And basically they are saying that in 5 years after, which is 2020, it would actually be a 39% increase, which would have led to 72%. So 72% of their company would be advanced in terms of digitization by now. So we'd have to redo the survey to actually see where they are compared to what the predictions are. There's an annual digital revenue expect from implementation of Industry 4.0 of 2.9%, which would have added up to a US of 493 billion within a 5-year. The cost reductions, the cost savings as well will be 421 million. But this is what is very important. To achieve these, there is a planned investment of 907 billion towards industry. This would be the cumulative sum of all the persons who would have participated and industry represented in the survey. And they're actually looking at 55% of the investment within 2 years. So it's not 5, 10, 15, 20 years. This is arguable, ambitious target, but this is what the respondents have said. Some other findings, there will be a quantum leap in terms of performance, data analytics, and digital trust are going to be very important. And I want to emphasize the digital trust aspect is what we will have to put in the proper IC infrastructure to ensure that there is security in terms of the data. And this definitely will accelerate growth for the region. So what's the blueprint? How do we get there? We have to have a strategy, and we have to prioritize measures. We will not be able to implement all aspects of the 4.0 at the same time, but we need to prioritize how can the which aspect of this can actually contribute to the greater value to the company and make the company not only sustainable but competitive and profitable. There needs to be pilot projects and collaboration. This is part of the blueprint. Become an expert in data analytics. Transform into the organization into digital enterprise to foster a digital culture. These are some of the recommendations from the survey. And partnership definitely is something that we have to develop. And so, of course, we know the government have always been champion and saying a lot about industrial revolution, and that is commendable. And as well as the one of the things that the Prime Minister Holness said when the world moved to the third industrial revolution, Jamaica was just realizing the benefits of the second industrial revolution. We cannot allow this mistake to be made that when the world would have moved to the fifth industrial revolution, Jamaica is just knowing the need, the value or the benefit of Industry 4.0. We cannot let that happen in terms of Industry 4.0. We need the benefits of what we're discussing, and we need to start our implementation. So looking back in terms of the Global Competitive Index report, there are 13 important factors that contribute to Jamaica performance, and we are actually ranked 79 in the world based on the 2019 report, which would be for the period 2018 to 2019, which means that out of 140, well, that was during the that was actually during the 2018. In the 2019, we were actually ranked 79 out of 141. What are some of the pillars that we need to focus on? Infrastructure, electricity access, percent of population. We definitely need to improve on that. The internet use, 5% of our working adult, which work out is not 5% in terms of internet user of adult population, which would be ICT adoption. So that definitely is an issue. We need to improve on that skill set. In terms of the digital skill set, we need to improve on that as well. One of the things, sad reality, only 3% of GDP is actually being used for research and development. Much more need to be done in terms of that as well. Plotting the data, basically implementing Industry 4.0, a strategy that we could use. If we focus on ICT skills, the macroeconomic factors, the innovation, and the business dynamics, then we can actually contribute. Once we increase in these areas, then there will be success in implementing Industry 4.0. So what I have done basically is to plot this graph, and if we actually have a 30% increase in actually ICT skill alone, Jamaica will actually have a 62.8, approximately 63% probability of success of implementing Industry 4.0 by just basically increase ICT skill by 30%, which actually leads to 6% overall increase probability of success. All right, companies that have embraced disruptive ideas, and if we look at those, Israel is ranked first. Jamaica is actually ranked 92 out of 142, which is, I mean, it therefore means that much more in terms of culture, a digital culture will have to be emphasized to help person to actually adapt to the new normal. And we see Trinidad and Tobago way down, 134, and Barbados way down. Basically, looking at the scores in terms of for the 10 countries embracing disruptive technology, for 10 of the countries that rank 1 to 10, we actually realize that there is actually a positive correlation in terms of the scores and disruptive technologies. So therefore, by placing greater emphasis to including disruptive technologies such as Industry 4.0 into our economic, will actually have a positive correlation. So the graph appears negative, but it's not, because when you actually go down from left to right, you see that the rank is going 20 to 0, which means that you're actually getting greater. So the rank is actually begin at 1. So 1 is being the highest. So even though the graph appears like this, basically we have a positive correlation for, and if that is actually represented for the 10 best countries, it means that if Jamaica actually embrace more disruptive technologies into our economy, then basically we will, our rank would have increased dramatically, which contribute to our economic growth. There needs to be a transfer of knowledge. There needs to be transfer of knowledge in terms of the persons who are actually experienced or should be retired shortly to the young persons. There definitely need to be a transfer of knowledge, and that can be assisted in terms of artificial intelligence, can help in terms of that transfer of knowledge. What are some of the opportunities? We can actually store digital designs for parts in the cloud. There's predictive maintenance, short operational lead times, higher asset utilization, which are factors that contribute to our competitiveness in terms of not just our local partners, but regional and international. But we need to overcome the fear of failure. So this is very important. Fear of failure represents opportunities for success. So once we overcome those and we take the leap, then we definitely, a lot of positive things will happen in our economy. Efficiency gains, some other opportunities. Efficiency gains and cost savings is at least 20%. New digital products and service and solution, which create a lot of job opportunities as well. Real-time end-to-end planning and collaboration, so you can actually work together and know exactly what is happening. Teamwork, better inventory performance, quality control, of course, real-time inline quality control in terms of product and process, definitely. So manufacturers may not see the cost. So what are some of the barriers? Definitely manufacturers may not see the costs as justifiable, and personally may think they don't have the technical competency. Open source software packages going to be an issue. Cultural transformation, that would be, to me, the biggest issue, and definitely our energy quality and costs need to be improved. Digital education literacy, that definitely need to be a priority in terms, and that can be fixed by just training. What are some of the challenges and opportunities? I just want to quote from Brune 2020. He said that the US is at risk of falling behind. We're talking about the great United States, right? Is at risk of falling behind both Europe and Asia in terms of our smart manufacturing, digital transformation journey. And if US is at risk, what about us? So we definitely have to do something. The report in 2016 said a lack of digital skills and transformation culture top the list of challenges identified. So definitely culture will be something that we need to overcome. The JMA has spoke up, and definitely we need to embrace it and we need to act. I need to just emphasize, and my time is almost run out, the largest contribution to the economic among all goods producing sector basically is actually between 8 to 9%. That's a JAMPRO report, and I believe last year it was 8.6% contribution to GDP, and I'm expecting that, especially in the pandemic, that manufacturing would have been probably the larger of the goods producing sector with a massive increase. So definitely if we increase our capacity to produce in terms of implementation of the Industry 4.0 in the manufacturing sector, Jamaica can recover from the pandemic quicker than any other industry. We have to tackle the cyber risk. I'm out of time, but I definitely have to mention this is a concern. Overall, the manufacturing sector is doing well in protecting data, but regarding production application, there are several vulnerabilities. So manufacturing have to do more to actually protect their data and their means of production. So that is something that needs to be addressed as well. All right. Greater investment in education, greater investment. It cannot be oversaid in research and development and partnership. All right. So those are some very important. In concluding, the digital transformation is underway. Now is the time for your company to act. Now is the time for Jamaica to act. Now is the time for all of us to act. Jamaica and the Caribbean must invest in training and implementation of Industry 4.0. Industry 5.0 is just around the corner, and everyone needs to get on board. This is the last thing I want to say. From the research findings, it said that from the PwC 2016, within the next 5 years, which means that it is current today, advanced implementation of Industry 4.0 will become a qualifier to compete, and is also likely to be seen by what? Investors as a qualifier for funding. So soon after this, for the government to get investment, we have to show that there is implementation of Industry 4.0. Thank you very much for having me, and the information will be made available through the JIE.
Thank you, Engineer Bennett, for a very informative presentation. I'm sure,
you're welcome.
I'm sure that it has now stimulated persons in thinking where we are. First, Mr. Pandue pointed out that in terms of the industry and our productiveness, we are lagging behind, and you are pointing out to us that in terms of Industry 4.0, there is a wide range of catching
tools,
up.
Yes, and strategies.
Tools, and you have to catch up. So therefore, I know that Melissa, someone has fielded a question to Mr. Bennett. You want to take the question, Melissa?
Sure. The question is, how much government intervention is required for Jamaica to realize its full industrial advancement? And how do we retain that human capital that is depleting due to migration?
Well, that's a very, thank you for the question. I must say, basically, the government definitely will have to play a role. The government will not hide out on this one. The government need to put in the required policies in place. The government need to get the required funding. If it means borrowing, this is an area that we need to invest more. The government need to play a very important role. But at the same time, the government need to have a partnership, which I describe as PPII. P, which would be public sector, private sector, as well as institution as well. Institutions such as JIE, institutions, the Jamaica Computing Society need to play a role, and definitely academia need to be on the table to give the research, the support, and for it to be sustainable. But the government definitely will need to secure the funding and the investment and lead from the front.
Okay. I see Dave Muir saying that it was a very good point, which is true, Dave, that it's going to be a qualifier for funding going forward from the international community. And I think the manufacturers need to remember that going forward, when you want to compete internationally for funding, Industry 4.0 will make one of those tick box.
Yes, definitely.
We have to tick that box. And therefore, from the JIE standpoint, Mr. Bennett, what do we do? How do we get it across to the industries that the time is now? Actually, the time has passed. How do we get it across? What do we do? Because we're here for solutions.
That is true. One other thing we have to recognize that we are in a pandemic. Our major contribution in terms of tourism, we're not getting anything right now from tourism. And because of that, our options are limited. We cannot sit and look. Manufacturing will have to play a major role in putting the country forward. And so therefore, the leaders, the CEOs, the managers, they need to buy into the concept of not just implementing Industry 4.0, but it has to be done in a productive and efficient way. So the humans have necessary, in terms of human capital, training is inevitable. In-house training, formal training, that is very important. JI will continue to provide workshops and conferences like these to have that discussion. But then we need basically JMEA as well to ensure that the manufacturing make this as a priority when they have their upcoming meetings, as a priority that manufacturing, this is a time for manufacturing to shine and to make a big contribution, and a lot of employment opportunities will come from it, which will contribute as well to the industry, the service sector growth too, which overall contribute to GDP. So this is a win-win for everybody. But we just have to prioritize on some of the areas. We cannot do everything, and that's what we need to. What are some of the areas that we can do? Those low-hanging fruits. What are some of those areas? Training is one of the first thing. I think a better option too, instead of industry spending so much millions of dollars sending persons overseas to get training, why not partner with the university to provide updated laboratories, updated equipment, and do the training locally, basically, so that we can have sustainability in training and the country can benefit. Why spending so much money to carry persons just to train industry partners alone and not training other persons so that the skill set can be harnessed and stay within the country? So much needs to be done.
I see one of our attendants, Mr. Dave Muir. I think you had a question. You raised your hand. I'm going to open the speaker. Dave, do you have a question you want to ask Mr. Bennett? You can unmute and go ahead.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for this presentation, Mr. Bennett.
You're welcome, Dr. Moore. Yes.
I just wanted to make a few very quick points, right? One that you're mentioning in terms of the partnerships and the collaborations and what is actually happening. I'm sure you are aware that these investments, for example, that has been made even at the Caribbean Maritime University with the Festo Center that is there, that is actually offering Industry 4.0 training, is something we need to put on the table, and we need to actually work together. We also have the Center for Digital Innovation and Advanced Manufacturing that is pushing as well a heavy digital transformation agenda in the system and is actually targeting several of the local industries and helping them to prepare in terms of their technology readiness, etc. Right? But I do like your points when you said that yes, we are facing serious barriers in terms of culture, etc. And the question is, you know, how do we actually get over these barriers? The challenges again is that when we actually think about our small and medium enterprises, right? The reality is that a lot of them, as you know, are actually at industry 3.0. They are really just getting into automation, you know, etc. And they are now going to have to make this leap, as you mentioned, into embracing the 3.0 technologies and now the 4.0 technologies. But the question is, you know, what I'm really getting at is that the technology is here. There are companies, for example, like Jamalco, you know, and that are actually using these technology and stuff. So it's that transfer to the small manufacturers what it is that we have to actually focus on. But anyway, in order to help that transfer, the main question that I would actually have is, I noticed you mentioned that in terms of a barrier, open source software, you mentioned it has been a barrier.
Yes, I mentioned that.
I wasn't so clear on that point. Could you elaborate for me, please?
Okay, thank you. Partnership is always one of the things that I'm sure that University of Technology that I'm a part of welcomes. And so the discussions can always be had in between the leadership of partnering in different areas. In terms, we have a lot of skill set, we have technologies as well, and to complement what you have. So a partnership definitely can always be discussed between the leaders of the entities, and definitely we will be prepared to follow through with those. In terms of open source software, one of the things that is that some of the softwares that are actually being used are closed source, which means that you have to have special license, and so that some of them are actually expensive. So as a consequence, we have to create, especially with the School of Computing and IT and the School of Engineering in the FENC, basically, and other universities and other could actually basically be develop some of these softwares, and we could actually make those open source and to help our local need. But then we just have to manage the security risk that comes with that as well.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And sorry, I'm muting. Okay, good. So, Mr. Bennett, we have one more question. Melissa, before we wrap up.
Yes, the last question is, do we need tax reforms to enhance PPPs and other partnerships?
Well, in terms of tax reform, what I would say, probably what we need is tax incentive. So companies who have gone ahead and actually invest in Industry 4.0, then the government need to say, okay, this is the level of investment that you have made in terms of asset, in terms of human capital, and so would be prepared to actually give an incentive in terms of tax break or tax reduction. And that actually could actually help more companies. So we're not asking for more tax. What we are saying basically is that there needs to be those who are investing, who can afford, should actually be benefiting. But those who cannot afford, there need to be availability of funding, and the banks need to be on board basically to provide loans that are far cheaper so that the SME can develop and can integrate at a small scale until they can be expand and so on. So definitely service sector will need to collaborate with manufacturing for this to work. So it's all about collaboration and partnership for mutual development of our society.
Okay, thank you. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, it's interesting. We had one person talking about productivity, another person explaining to us that we need to play catch up in terms of Industry 4.0. I'm hoping that the industry leaders on the call, as well as the university representatives, would understand that the country will be leaning on all of us to get this one right? And yes. I know some persons are just going to Industry 3.0 and Industry 4.0 is around the corner. But guess what, guys? I think we'll have to do a game change whereby you take 2 steps instead of taking 1 beanie step.
Oh, yes.
Right? And therefore, I'm expecting the UTech and the UE on the call, and the CMU, right, to collaborate. There's no reason why the three major universities on the island cannot collaborate to bring Jamaica up to where we need to be. Richard has said that we need to do a 5% growth versus a 3% growth because of COVID. So we are expecting that the university players on the call in this conference will start talking, coming up with ideas. We have bright, young, not young, but we have bright engineers who are willing, wanting to contribute and wanting to start the local manufacturing sector. And therefore, we now got ideas as to where we can get funding via GMEA. From the JIE standpoint, I see my President-elect Glaser in the conference as well. I'm expecting that going forward, we will be that conduit that will help persons to just to meet. We'll pull the GMEA, what they have to offer. We'll pull the engineers who have ideas and see if we can have a conversation and how we can, and we'll bring UTEC and CMU on board for the various centers to help them to innovate and to get the business up and running. It's now time, Jamaica, that we get this one right. We no longer can wait. There's no North America to run to. This is it.
This is it.
Stay here and get this one right. Thank you very much.
I just want to add as well in closing that we probably need to just have like a task force. Are we basically an industry 4.0 task force that start to develop the policies that is relevant for Jamaica, and we have the Jamaica Productivity Center as well, because one of the things that we have to realize now is not just about working hard. We need to work smart and make sure that what we are doing, they will contribute to the productivity. So we need the productivity experts on board as well, so that all of us can grow the economy together. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here.
Bennett. Thank you very much.